Hello, Joe from Astranti here, and today we have got a video on the latest MCS survey for the last sitting in May. So, just to cover dual homes, which is the case if you aren't a student from this sitting, they manufacture homes in the most modern way, and it's called prefabrication. Now, overall, we had a top 10 issues that covered pretty much all of the variants, but we'll get to that in just a second. The most important thing is that there are a number of takeaways. Now, I will remind you that this is a survey from Astranti students, so it may not be representative of the entire possibility that occurred as part of this case study, but we've got a set of data for you here. And as you can see below, 22% of students found the exam harder than they expected. Unfortunately, that does mean that the majority felt that it was going to be difficult and planned accordingly. However, if you are very confident, perhaps overconfident on how your MCS will go in the future sitting, please be aware that there are a number of students who are going to be surprised at the end of the exam. It always happens. But on top of this, we've also got 32% of students identified gaps in technical knowledge as a core problem. So, if you're slacking on revision, you know what the answer is. But without dwelling on that, we've also got to understand that time management is also key. You can be the very best CIMA student, but if you do not manage your time very well, you're going to produce a response that the examiner simply cannot grade highly. So we need to make sure that we've got our technique down as well as our revision, and I'm sure you'll find plenty of tips on this YouTube channel. Subscribe, by the way, as you go through. And the next one we've got is that we've got our variance now. So based on our responses, we believe variant 1 was centered on expansion, funding, and just-in-time production. Now, expansion and funding were very much going to be expected, and as you'll see as we go down, the variants cover the biggest issue that pervaded the entire case, and that was about how the business grows. That was one of the key issues as a massive topic, and of course, there's loads of different ways that kind of question can go. But also, just-in-time production obviously has a number of drawbacks, and this was how they did their prefabricated homes. And as you can imagine, it was about analysing whether just-in-time was the way to go, or whether they can find more efficiencies by utilising a different method. So variant 2 was all about competitive advantage and acquisition. So again, centred on growth, trying to ensure that revenues increase. And this one was going to cover things such as, increasing the ability to outcompete other businesses. And at the end of the case, we had articles on different businesses. We had a North American business that looked very similar to the case company, but also a local company which had specialized in landscaping on top of their homes. And this is likely a source of the acquisition element, where maybe they bought that company to expand into a different product or add-on service. Variant 3 was on core competencies. So again, centered on what we're doing well, what we need to do in the future, make sure we keep on going, not getting too sidetracked, but also what can be done to grow the business centered around what we do well. And that's typically the focus of most of these variants, as we expected throughout the study period. And variant 4, which was most definitely talked about as the most difficult variant by the students, was about vision and mission. So this is very much a strategic approach to how the business should go about their operations. So as you can imagine, if we've got these multiple avenues of growth, how you see the business and what the overall mission is of the business is quite crucial to informing those decisions. And this is probably a bit of a curveball as far as many students are concerned, because it is probably the most unkind aspect to the sort of growth topic that we saw across the entire case. So we had over 80% of people thought that was a very difficult exam, whereas variants 1 and 5 were seen as very, very easy. But what is number 5? Variant number 5 was on competitive analysis, and this is probably the most sort of fortunate spin on this growth topic. It's one of those sort of big topics that people don't seem to forget when they revise, and it's quite well rounded and easy to understand. But on the note of difficulty, 25% of students felt the variant 2 was quite challenging, so only 1 in 4. Most people thought it was okay. Variant 3 is 83% is as they expected. So actually variant 3 is probably the easiest of all the variants, as people felt that core competences were quite a straightforward question by the looks of it. But overall, you can see that there is a little bit of a variation between how students found each variant, and you could be unfortunate and get the more difficult variant, so make sure you do not skimp on your revision. But that's the overall takeaways from our survey this time around. And if you want any further information about that, feel free to email in. Once again, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to subscribe. It really helps us out. And I will see you in the next video.